Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Probably just forgot something. We'll be in the air in no time. Okay? Don't worry. Hang in there.
Well, it's that time of year. Usually in February, we do it's freezing outside. We usually do some kind of theme month. You know, last year we talked about Black History Month and entertainment and movies. And prior to that, we did several years with our buddies over at Forgotten February. Well, this year, you know, Lloyd and myself, we're New Englanders through and through. And February is when it's ball achingly cold outside. You could almost say it's a frigid February here on The Pint. My name is John.
My name is Lloyd.
And all month long, we are going to do movies here on the main feed that are cold, weather, snowy, that kind of thing. Over on the Patreon, if you go to Patreon/The Pint, it'll warm up a little bit over there. We're going to save the warm movies for over there. But yeah, we're doing some cold stuff this year. And first thing I thought of when I thought of a cold movie, I thought, let's do a movie that is a prequel to a movie we've already done. That was also the first Pint Movie Invitational we ever recorded way back in 2018.
I remember that.
When the Manster was like just kind of a guest host on the show. So if you don't know all the dots there together, we're going to be doing the 2011 version of The Thing. So let's get into it.
Let's rock!
All right, Manster. I did the introductions this week, so we don't have to go through all of that. I was listening to editing the last episode, and I totally forgot to introduce us.
That was funny.
But you know who we are. So Manster, you've got all the production stuff on this thing, and this movie is rife with production stuff.
Rife.
So why don't we talk about that first?
They're kind of like rife finds, really.
Yes.
And speaking of frigid February, I record downstairs. You know, I have a raised ranch, and I record at the lower level, and it's always frigid here. By the time I go upstairs after recording, my hands and feet and nose are all frozen.
Oh, you should bundle up, buddy.
That's why I got this nice sweater on. Candy got me a sweater for Christmas. It's fucking warm. I love it.
You look very nice in it. I got my dog next to me. It's warm.
That'll keep your feet warm for sure.
Yeah, he's right here. He's right here keeping me warm, so.
Yeah. So The Thing, 2011, came out on 10/10, October 10th, 2011. I'm going to first just tell you it's produced by Mark Abraham and Eric Newman, who had in 2004, they had success with Dawn of the Dead, the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Zack Snyder, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, this movie really exists because of that movie. Basically, that movie made bank, right?
Yeah.
1978 classic, and it earned more than $100 million worldwide in 2004. So it was directed by Matthias van Heiningen.
Yes.
All right, I got it right. And from now on, from this point forward, I'm just going to call him Heineken.
Yes, there we go, Heineken.
All right?
Yeah.
All right. This thing's loaded with Norwegian actors and such. So he started directing at an early age. He did a lot of promotional stuff for Toyota, Peugeot, Renault, Stella Artois. Pepsi, he did Bud Light. He did some minor stuff. He did some shorts. His first directed was a Dutch film called Red Rain. I don't know if it has anything to do with the awesome Peter Gabriel song, but that was 1996. His next thing was 2011, this movie here. He was supposed to direct Army of the Dead. Remember that movie on Netflix?
Which I read the same thing, which initially was supposed to be a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, the remake, right? Because Zack Snyder made both of those. But in the end, Army of the Dead, when it did come out, was just, another zombie story.
Yeah, and they were working on it a long time ago. I think like 2008. It sat around for 10 years.
It should have sat around longer because it wasn't good.
Yeah, right. Well, like you said, it was by Zack Snyder. And then his next feature was not until 2020, something called The Forgotten Battle, a Netflix original Dutch war film. You don't hear that a lot.
No.
This guy basically kind of disappeared after directing the thing for multiple reasons.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably so fucking frustrating. He wanted nothing to do with Hollywood anymore.
Yeah, I would say. So written by not Ronald D. Moore, who was the first writer actually hired for this. He's known for his work in Star Trek and Battlestar Galactica, a series I absolutely loved. But he was the first writer, and he wrote some stuff, and they had some bad ideas. I don't know if you heard about some of the early drafts. There was one where he had a brother, McCready. I'm sorry, McCready had a brother who was in the Norwegian outpost. And there is a whole side story and something to do with flashbacks, and it's all bullshit. And anyway, so that idea was abandoned. But once he fulfilled his contract, then they brought on the credited writer Eric Hesserer. He basically rewrote everything, and it was substantial enough to give him the sole writing credit. So you won't see Ronald Moore's name on it, just this guy. And he himself had come off some pretty big horror. He did the 2010 A Nightmare on Elm Street, then Final Destination 5. I hear is a good one. I don't watch those movies.
It was good. I recently just saw that one. It's a high point in the series when it had much run out of gas. Like it's not a great series anyways, but it had kind of recovered from a really, really bad fourth movie. Really
bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fourth ones are usually never good.
No.
Then he did The Thing. In 2016, he did Arrival, which won, not won, but is nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. Bird Box, which was a huge hit at one time on Netflix, and Bloodshot, which I believe, did you see that during COVID?
No, never watched it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never saw it either. So that's the writer. So what is this movie? It's basically, it's a prequel that leads directly to the opening scene of John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982 with the dog and the helicopter. And it was set up pretty well. I don't know if he set it up to have a prequel, but he left a lot of things there. I think it was just a good not launching pad, but a good place for a sequel to, some things to pick up.
Well, I mean, his movie is all about the American outpost in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Right. And there obviously is the Norwegian outpost they travel to, and something happened there. So it's literally loaded right there. Well, we want to tell a prequel story. Tell what happens at the Norwegian outpost, because clearly this happened there as well. Right.
And they did show all the good stuff. So like some of the great things that you do get out of this is you see the alien escaping from the block of ice that you find in the Norwegian outpost. The big thing everyone talks about, you see the axe in the wall, how it got there. And you see the man who ended up slashing his throat and wrists, frozen. So you see all these things, and that's great. And they clearly did a lot of work recreating all that. And boy, they got like stills from the movie. They based it all on Kurt Russell's height.
For the axe, for the axe. How tall Kurt Russell was at the time,
So a lot of things, and smartly enough, anyway, these guys decided not to tell, not to retell The Thing. They're like, no way, we can't do that, but we will make a prequel. So that worked out, I think, pretty good. It's a good decision anyway. It was filmed in Pinewood, Toronto studios for the interior sets, including the Tool Station, where most of the action takes place. Canadian Forces military base, Trenton, in Ontario. Those would be the scenes involving the helicopters and exteriors related to the Antarctic research. And then other places in British Columbia, other exterior shots, icy landscapes, things like that. Interestingly, they didn't use any of the original locations from the 1982 movie. Special effects. I got to talk about special effects.
You have to.
I guess now's the time to do it, right?
You have to.
Yeah. So during the production, they hired the artists from Amalgamated Dynamics, all right, to bring this monster to life through practical effects, because that proved to work, right? In 1982, that fucking worked like a charm. And then the plan was to do some slight CG enhancements in post. Well, sadly, that's not what ended up happening. They just slathered everything with CG in post. They literally covered up all the practical effects.
Test audiences didn't love the practical stuff, but the studio just said, we don't want this to look old. We want it to look new. And unfortunately, that also quantifies into, we don't want this to look cool. We want it to look kind of bad, or in some cases, really fucking bad.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to, I guess, like perceived marketability. They just wanted a modern look over an artistic vision,
Right.
And what they think is going to sell, I guess, Sometimes they're right, but not every time.
You talk about the Zack Snyder stuff like Dawn of the Dead and Army of the Dead. The parallel here is how everybody always talks about, like, release the Snyder cut of Justice League. Yeah. I guess there's a big fan contingency that's it's called release the pilot cut, right? Did you read about that? Because at the end, and we'll talk about this, when she kind of meets up with that Tetris thing.
Oh, what the fuck was that?
It was originally supposed to be the pilot of that ship.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that. When we get to that part of the movie, I'll get more into that.
I'm curious about that because I didn't do a lot of research on that.
Okay, I know about that.
All right, excellent. And one other thing is that Heineken, he actually said that the CGI effects made the film more accessible to the modern audience. And he's just full of shit, He also, it's more like the Scorpion King,
If you also read interviews with him closer to now, he regrets it. Yeah. Because he knows that is what everybody's problem with this movie is. Rob Bottin is one thing. You might not be able to ascend to him. Amalgamated, Alec Gillis, and I cannot remember the other guy's name. Those guys have done a ton of things. Alien 3, they are a known quantity.
Yeah.
So their practical effects probably look pretty good, but once they decided to start refilming and overlaying with CGI, it just became a whole different thing. This movie was delayed by a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember a personal story. I remember in 2010, so like October of 2010, I went to New York Comic Con with our buddy Lou. And I didn't see the panel, but they had a panel for the thing there because it was supposed to come out in like April of 2011. And they had to reshoot all this shit. So then it got shoved back, like you said, to October of 2011 because I remember I went to Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con on a Saturday in 2011. And me and Lindsay saw this movie the Friday it opened, which was also October 10th was her birthday. So we saw this that Friday, and then I went to a whole nother New York Comic Con. So it was an entire year that this thing got reshoots because they said they wanted to clarify things and kind of tighten it up a little bit. But you could tell, obviously, that most of it is the CGI that does not work. That almost entirely does not work.
Almost.
Yeah.
One more thing I will mention, the music, composer Marco Beltrami.
Beltrami. Oh!
He's got a pretty good, tense and like brooding score. It does a good job echoing the Ennio Morricone stuff.
The absolute best part of the score, and I don't know if it was redone or if they just used the Ennio Morricone, is the end when the helicopter is chasing.
As soon as you hear that boom, boom,
boom
you're
boom.
like, yes.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah.
All right. So that's it for production. Why don't you tell us who's in this and see how many of these names you know?
Bring me everyone. What do you mean, everyone?
All right, let's do it. So the folks that made this movie claimed Heineken or Heinrich or whatever his name is, they were influenced also by Alien, and that's why they wanted a female lead in this thing. Also, famously, there's no females in the thing, 1982, other than
The Voice.
The Voice, that's it. So we start off with Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing Kate Lloyd. Lloyd, that's a funny name. She's married to Ewan McGregor. You might know her from Death Proof, where we don't know what happens to her. She's the the cheerleader that gets stuck with the hillbilly.
That's right, the hillbilly.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and she was in Birds of Prey. I think she was the Huntress. I never saw that movie, but she was the Huntress.
Was she the girl in the Cloverfield? 10 Cloverfield Lane?
10 Cloverfield Lane, yeah. Joel Edgerton plays Sam Carter. You know Joel Edgerton, he's an Australian actor. He's been in a bunch of things, but probably the biggest one that we know him from is Warrior. Great fucking movie.
We love Warrior.
He was in Zero Dark 30, which I've still never seen, and Smokin' Aces. Smokin' Aces, a Joe Carnahan film. All right, let's see. Ulrich Thomsen, actor from Denmark, plays Dr. Sandor Halvorsen. This is the guy who's in charge of the dig that we'll get into, the scientific expedition. He was in the 2007 Hitman. He was in the Bond film The World Is Not Enough, and he was in the Ridley Scott film Kingdom of Heaven. Now, this guy's name sounds Norwegian, but he's just like an American white dude. Eric Christian Olsen is Adam Finch. He's Sandor Halvorsen's assistant. You might know him. He was a key cast member, I guess, on NCIS Los Angeles, a comedy film called Fired Up, and another comedy called The Hot Chick.
The Hot Chick.
Yeah.
Hey, go back to Ulrich Thomsen for one quick second.
Yeah.
They had hired another Norwegian actor, Dennis Storhoy, who had initially filmed the role, and they had to. He left we don't know. There's suspect that he was kicked off. There's suspect that he was drinking or something. But anyway, he left, and they had to digitally cover his face with Ulrich Thomsen's face in all the scenes rather than reshoot them.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not read that at all.
No, you didn't, huh? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I saw some of the scenes. I watched a video on it, on like a making of this and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, they showed you the scenes where they digitally put his face over him.
Jesus Christ. That's better CGI than the Halvorsen,
right?
The Halvorsen
never even
monster.
knew.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. All right. This guy's name always vexes me. Earlier this year, Stu and Mike and myself did the Suicide Squad. Adewale Akinyoyo Agjabaje plays Derek Jameson, one of the American helicopter pilots. You might know him as Adebisi in Oz, the television show. As I just mentioned, Suicide Squad. He was Mr. Echo, who I named my dog after,
Echo, yep.
on Lost, and he was also in The Mummy Returns. Let's see. Paul Bromstein plays Griggs. You might know him. He's a Canadian actor from Shazam, Jigsaw, and a Canadian soap opera called Train 48. Christopher, with a K, Hivju plays Jonas, another one of the expedition members.
Hey.
Yeah.
My name is Jonas.
Yeah. He's carrying the wheel. You might know him as the giant redheaded barbarian dude from Game of Thrones. What was his? Do you remember his name? I don't remember his name.
I don't remember the name.
He was also in After Earth, and he was in the very recent Christmas film Red One. And then I'll end it off with Jongin Langherv plays
Tormund?
Lars. Was it Tormund?
Yeah, I think so.
Jørgen Landherv plays Lars. He is a Norwegian actor. He was in a film called Uno, a film called Betrayal, and I can't read my writing on this last one, so I'm not going to say it. Lars, though, is the Lars is the guy with the flamethrower, right? Through most of this thing, I believe they interchange, and that's why I stopped my cast list there, because I did not want to attempt any more of these these Nordic names that were just too hard.
He's the guy who basically doesn't have many lines.
Yeah, well, who's the one guy who they say doesn't speak English and ends up, he's the guy on the helicopter at the end. Was that Peter?
Yeah. No, Peter gets killed.
Okay, so that's Lars then.
I think it's Lars, yeah.
All right, so Lars is that guy, the big dude. Okay, so let's get into this. All right, we're in Antarctica, and we're in a snowcat of some sort. 3 guys are following a sonar signal. 2 guys are telling a joke about a grandmother getting humped in Norwegian.
Oh yeah, that was a funny joke.
It's a good joke. Meanwhile, the guy in the back is listening to this machine, and when it gets to the point where he knows the signal is close, he tells the guys to stop. But just as they stop, Manster, what happens?
The ice underneath them just breaks, and their snowcat just takes a deep dive.
Goddamn, goes like, it looks like, I don't know, 100 yards down into like this crevice.
Yeah, was it in this movie or the 1982 where they said this craft was 200 meters under the ice?
The first movie, 1982.
All right, yeah.
So they slide all the way down, and then the ice stops this vehicle, and as it stops it, the headlights kind of illuminate a ship. It's a ship, right? It's the spaceship from the 1982 movie, but it's still under the ice. This is a prequel, remember? So we get like the cool, like we discussed in the 82 episode, we get the Thing logo pops up on the screen. This is also one of the
cool,
first,
but it's not nearly as cool.
No, it's not. It's not the same. What was it, done on a TV with smoke and stencils?
It was a smoke-filled fish tank with a black paste like plastic bag on the back of it, and they lit it on fire. It was all kinds of really amazing, cool stuff.
Yeah, this was
all just digital,
but it's similar. And also, I think it's important to mention that this is maybe, if it's not the first, this might have been the trendsetter of movies that are not remakes that just use the same title as another movie, right?
Yeah,
so remakes do that all the time. But like now we've got movies like this, like Candyman from 2021, that are actually sequels.
Evil Dead do that too?
Evil. You're right. Evil Dead 2013. Although I can't remember, is the original Evil Dead called The Evil Dead? But either way, you're probably very right about that.
You know, one quick thing I saw on that video I watched, that signal that they were following.
Yep.
That was the exact same sound of the movie Sunshine.
Oh, okay.
Yes, there was a signal in Sunshine. I never saw that, and it's still on my to watch list.
Oh, Laura.
It was identical.
Laura and I did an episode on Sunshine last year, 2 years ago. Yeah, so it's a good movie. You should check it out.
Yeah.
All right. So we now go to the States, where Dr. Kate Lloyd, Lloyd, is I don't know, she's probing it looks like a saber-tooth tiger
fucking thing.
Yeah, saber-tooth tiger, maybe 27,000 years old, and she's obviously a what is she, Lloyd? A paleontologist.
Yeah.
Now this is a scene in this movie that like makes me cringe a little bit. Now, as you mentioned before, there's a lot of fan service in this movie in terms of like they did a really good job of tying this to the 82 version. But when she's listening to the Men at Work with Who Can It Be Now, I'm like, oh, how fucking dumb. I understand the correlation.
Because there's the correlation between the original story, the short story.
I didn't like that. But yeah. So she's doing her job, and then all of a sudden her old, I guess, colleague Adam and Dr. Sandor Halverson show up. And Sandor says to her, look, come to Antarctica with us. We found something in the ice that we need a paleontologist for. We need somebody that can look at the biology of something. But he won't tell her.
We need a girl to tell us how to cut this thing out of the ice.
Yeah, basically. And she's like, well, I don't want to just jump up and go. And he's like, make your choice now. And Adam kind of explains to her that like this is the most, like, this guy's been excited about anything. I've worked with him for years.
Yeah, what did they say? Like we found a structure and a specimen.
Yes.
I think those are the only two things that he could give her.
So she says, fuck it, I'm going to go. So we jump right into it. We're taking a helicopter up to Antarctica to this research station. This is where we meet the 2 American pilots, Joel Edgerton and Mr. Echo. And, you know, we kind of get like the little, there's no romance in this movie, but we get like the little meet cute between the 2 of them where they're talking about, Joel Edgerton asked her all about, Sam Carter, asked her all about how the Cleveland Cavaliers are doing. She says she doesn't follow football.
Right.
So we know, we already know. And here's something about this movie that just needs to be said, because we're going to bump into it a lot throughout this thing. This, even though this is a prequel, and there are a little bit, it starts differently. This movie is the 82 movie, like in a parallel line, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of like not beat for beat, but it's like The Force Awakens is to Star Wars.
Yes, it 100%. Once you get to the camp, we pretty much have very similar things happening in a very similar timeline, to the point of, you know, discovery that something's wrong. The thing escapes, you know, all of a sudden everybody is very suspicious of each other.
Yep.
We have to have another test. Like, we can't have the blood test. So we have to have.
We already did a blood test.
We did the blood test. Now we got to do the fillings test. So you'll see as this goes along, this is just kind of a parallel prequel to that movie. So they get there, and Manster, let's just get into it. They show her what they found. What do they find?
Yeah, so they see under the ice a creature. It's clearly visible. It's not well defined, but you know, I like the way they showed it. You know, you got maybe like a hand with some fingers, some appendages. It's pretty darn big. And they want to know basically, hey, can we get this out of the ice?
Yeah,
right. So they do. They chop it up. She's like, oh well, it's going to have to be this big and this big and this deep. So they do that, and they cart it into their in the outpost and in that room that's made just for big blocks of ice.
That's it. The entire room is just. It's like you have a sitting room, you have a outdoor porch, you have your dining room, and then you've got your block of ice room in the back. Meet me in the back in the block of ice room.
Yeah, so they get in there and they decide, you know, well, he wanted a tissue sample, right? Isn't that what Halverson said?
He starts telling them what he wants to do, right? And this whole crew works for him. And she, in some way, shape, or form, contradicts him.
Yeah.
And
so you think that's a good idea?
Yeah. And then after they break, you know, he takes her aside and he's like, listen, you're not being paid to think. And if you do that again, Daddy gonna spank. He's like, please don't fucking do that again. This guy's not very.
Don't show me up in front of my men.
Yeah, he's not very not a very humorous dude. So she does end up taking a tissue sample from it. And
they drill. They got a big ass long, like 2 foot long drill.
Yeah. They go straight in. They get a little bit off the end.
Do you think that wakes up the alien? I saw something where somebody supposed that when they go into the alien with the drill, it sort of wakes him up. But
I gotta be honest.
Bullshit. That's bullshit.
I gotta be honest. I don't think about stuff like that generally. Yeah. You know, this is a movie called The Thing. The Thing is going to wake up at some point. They get the tissue sample, and of course, just like, you know, as you would, you just found an alien. You're going to be, you know, I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Jesus Christ. Okay, I didn't sneeze. All right. You find an alien. They start discussing how this is going to be like the biggest thing ever, right? Because
it's like when the kids go looking for the body in Stand By Me.
Absolutely, right? They're all getting ready. They have their one comb. So
right. They get their comb.
When they can get interviewed, they look good.
Their dances to 50s music.
The big difference between this movie and the 82 movie is that this movie is about the discovery of this dormant thing that is clearly alien because there's a ship involved with it. The 82 version is our camp just got invaded by this thing.
Yeah.
And it starts to attack, and then they discover stuff as they go along. But these people, the Norwegian people, know right off the bat what they're dealing with in terms of this is an alien. So they have an alien fucking party. And they're fucking drinking whatever Norwegians drink. I don't know, aquavit or whatever.
Yeah.
They're fucking playing their little like
They're singing songs by Genesis.
yeah, they're fucking
no fun.
they're playing their fucking ukuleles.
Yeah.
And the one guy's playing like his beer bottles like it's a guitar.
Right.
They're all having a great time. They're all like, we're going to be rich and this is going to put us all on the map. The Sam character, not Sam character. What's the guy's name here? Hold on one second. Derek, Mr. Echo, he decides he's going to go take a dump and he takes a dump. And then when he comes out of the dumper, he's like, I'm going to go look at this fucking block. Like this is, we're all chilling, 25 feet away, but like, I want to take this in for a second.
I want to rub that ice. I want to get that layer that, it's melting away.
Get a little bit of that pond scum on my hands.
Yeah.
So he goes in the room and he's hanging over the banister. And then just as he's like looking at this thing, this fucking motherfucking thing explodes out of the ice. Just explodes out of the ice through the roof. And he freaks out and he's running down the hallway. He runs into the rec room where all these Norwegian guys are like balls deep in each other right now because they're so excited about this find. And he's like, the fucking thing just woke up and came out of the ice. And they're all like,
yeah, they're laughing. Yeah, cuckoo, right. Yeah.
And he's like, motherfuckers, listen. So they all run down and they see that this ice block is fucking gone. Or the ice block is there, but it's exploded open. It looks just like what we see in the 82 version when they go and find it. So, Manster, they spread out to look for this thing, and chaos erupts, right? What happens?
Yeah. At this point, like, everything happens. I can't keep it all straight.
It's a lot.
Who happens to what? But do they find the dog first?
They find one of the dogs.
Yeah, the dog is dead.
Yep.
Oh, and then the two guys, that's it. The two guys are going out looking for him, and two of them are together, and one of them gets pulled in by the tendril or whatever tentacle, goes right through his chest from behind and then pulls him back. The other guy freaks out, and then he gets the rest of them, and they figure they have to burn it, right? That's where they burn it.
Right. They burn it up. They determine that the one guy is he sick or is he hurt? Because they decide
one guy seems like he's sick, like he's got some kind of ill effects.
Right.
That's what they make you think. Anyway, he's got some ill effects from in the encounter somehow.
Now, meanwhile, Kate has taken a look along with Adam at this tissue sample of the thing.
Yeah.
And what do they find out from their scientific fucking knowledge and their microscopes?
Yeah, very scientific. They made it so easy to understand. So they look through. You see some cells. You see some nice, round, smooth cells.
Healthy
as fuck, smooth, round cells. And then you see these fucking urchin-looking cells, like a sea urchin might look.
Why do the thing's cells have to look like a sea urchin? Why can't the thing have nice, healthy-looking round cells? You know what I mean?
It's got to be all spiky. So anyway, the spiky cells absorb. Did you notice they said absorb?
They fucking said absorbed.
I love it.
Sandor said that. Yeah. So she realizes that it's absorbing the healthy cells and it's imitating it. So then
so it absorbs the cell and then it turns from spiky to smooth, and you're like, oh look, it's imitating, trying to emulate the whatever cell it's taking over. Yeah.
So they decide that they're going to do a thing autopsy on this. So they pull in the burnt-in crust of what they found, and they throw it up on a slab, and just like the first movie, they crack it. It sounds almost like a lobster when they're cracking it. Kind of makes
it felt to me like it would sound a little different, but I'm not a Foley artist.
So they crack it open. Everybody's standing around watching this thing, and as they crack it open, inside. They find inside like this amniotic sac.
There's some good giblets in there.
Giblets. There's this dude, the dude that got killed by the thing.
Yeah.
Henrik is now being reformed in this amniotic sac. And this looks like a practical effect. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah. This one part looks great.
You see his head and you can see his teeth through his cheek. And it's just very clear that he's being, not only was he absorbed, but now he's being recreated, and this is how the thing works. We know how the thing works. It emulates, right? But then what do they find inside of it that shouldn't be there, Manster?
Well, it was Kate that's poking around, and she's got these little forceps or whatever, and pulls up this big plate. it's this long skinny plate with a bunch of screws sticking out of it. And the guy said, yeah, well, that's a titanium plate to repair broken bones. So whatever the thing is doing, it's spitting out anything that's non-organic.
Right. So this is something that we did not see, or at least never heard from the 1982 version, is that when it reforms, it can't reform any non-organic material. They mentioned that Heinrich had broken his arm last year and had to be flown to Argentina to be reset. So now we got this in the mind, right? And keep this in mind for the test coming up soon.
Yeah.
So then they decide we're going to take the sick guy.
Griggs. Griggs is the other guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Olav. That's it. Olav.
The guy that was listening to the sound in the beginning, the sonar.
Yeah.
He's not doing good. So Sam Carter and Derek Jameson are like, we're going to take him to a military hospital to be looked at. So they decide they're going to get in, and they take their other American guy that's like the third helicopter dude with them. So they all climb into the helicopter, and they're about to take off. Meanwhile, Kate goes into the bathroom and she finds a house of fucking horrors. First thing she finds is just a bunch of blood all over the sink and a bunch of little metal things, and she can't kind of figure out what they are off the bat. Then she looks in the shower, and the shower looks like when Manster has his heavy period days.
Yes.
When Manster has that, like when he's on like that heavy period month, and he just stands in the shower and lets it drain out of him.
I just let it rip. It goes all the way from the top of the shower to the drain.
Normally the Manster is nice enough to then spray everything down so whoever uses the shower, like poor Candy, doesn't have to go into a bloodbath. But whoever did this did not give a fuck.
No
so
fucks given.
Manster, what does she determine?
So she immediately, because she's smart, it's like, oh, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
She's like, it's emulating people. It can't absorb the metal. And we can't let people leave. We can't let this thing get out into the world, the greater world. So she tries to flag down the helicopter.
It's important to mention real quick for the test later that what she found in the sink was fillings.
Right. Fillings and like cavity fillings.
Right.
And Joel Edgerton, also known as Carter, does see her, and because he wants to bone her, but that never goes anywhere. And
he wants to
thankfully
bone
that never
her.
goes anywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, well, let's go down. We're going to go back. And so this is where it starts to fall apart a little for me, because so you've got the scene in there. So you've got Echo and Carter, and then you've got Griggs and Olav. Olav is the sick guy, and Griggs is just there to, for moral support, I guess.
And I think we're supposed to believe that Olav is the thing, because he's sick.
They're making us believe, hey, they're taking this sick guy and he's going to have the thing. Well, it turns out Griggs, I don't know, he makes a funny sound first, and then his face starts shifting a little bit, and then what happens is his face just shifts right in half.
What actually happens, Master, is terrible CGI happens.
Yeah, right. Terrible CGI.
This probably looked great in practical effects, but his head kind of like shifts a little bit. Olav is staring at him, and then he cracks open, and then the fucking tentacles come out of the stomach,
out of the chest,
the chest and the stomach, and then all we see from the ground is the helicopter starts spinning out of control, and then over a mountain we just see like a fucking explosion.
So I want to get your thought on this.
Yeah.
In the original thing, I think it's pretty well established that fucking thing will camp out and wait. It's not going to expose itself.
Right.
For no fucking good reason. And there's no good reason for him to expose himself right now.
I agree. I mean, unless in their mind in the story, maybe they can't control themselves to a certain point. I don't know, but you're right. It's almost like a showcase for a shitty effect or a scare, and it doesn't do either well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or it was an excuse. They had to figure out, how do we down this helicopter and get rid of these American pilots who, by the way, come back. But we want to think, oh, these two heroic guys, these Americans, are dead. How do we do that? Make someone turn to the thing in the flight. It's not.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that great.
No. So that goes down. So Kate now is like, okay, we all got to talk. This is all fucked up, and this is what the thing is doing. And she kind of calls Adam out, and she's like, me and Adam saw this under the microscope. And then he's like, I don't know what I saw.
Yeah, right.
I saw something, but I don't know what I saw. So we're starting to get like the people not trusting each other, even old friends. So she has another bit where she goes into a room. She gets beckoned into a room by the other woman.
Oh, is this where the Juliet thing comes?
Yeah, the other woman's like, I want to show you something.
They want to get keys, right? They want
Right.
to get keys for something.
Juliet brings her in the room, says, I know where they keep all the vehicle keys. And then when Kate Lloyd, Lloyd, is in the room going through the drawer, she hears like the fucking farting noises that start a thing transformation. Again, almost like you said, why, I know that it probably wants to absorb Kate, but like, again, it's just attacking people kind of more randomly, it seems like, or
Yeah.
maybe we're seeing it more in this movie. But she turns around and Juliet is just bad CGI. She is a thing as well. And
she's bent over backwards.
yeah,
She still seems like she's half human, like because her eyes are looking, and it looks like her eyes are like seeing something. I don't know.
it also seems like we should have gotten titties in this scene, and we didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I 100% feel like the way she was dressed and the way her shirt kind of falls off her is that we were owed titties.
Because you see it sort of morphing in the background.
Right.
Right? And you
Yeah.
see it changing, and it looks like she's bare-chested, but there's no titties at all.
No. Maybe her titties became eyes and we didn't notice it. Something happened.
Maybe,
But
yeah.
So we don't get titties in the scene. But is this where Peter or Lars saves her, right? It comes in and I think somebody kills her.
I think Lars kills her in this scene.
Right, because this is where everybody
With the
starts
flamethrower
to realize that this is all really happening, right? Like,
Yeah.
so now she's dead. Kate is now able to convince some of these people that this is what's happening. This thing is replicating us. It cannot use anything that's like inside of us, metal or plastic or anything like that. So here is my test that we're going to do. We're now going to take one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, the blood test and the thing. We're going to lower it by an excitement and in like effects by like about 100.
Her test is to check for fillings.
That's it.
So get a flashlight and open your mouth, and I'm going to look in your mouth.
Do you remember in 1982 when Kurt Russell had those little petri dishes?
Oh my God!
He cut your thumb. Remember how everybody cut their thumb so deep?
Uh-huh.
They almost cut their thumb off, and then they squeeze their blood in there, and then he puts a hot wire in it, and then it explodes into this fucking.
You need a lot of blood.
It explodes into this nightmare, and couches are shaking, and people are flamethrowing each other, and monsters around the ceiling. In this movie, they just check their teeth.
That original movie. So you know how I don't really get much affected by jump scares.
Yeah.
Right. I just it could happen right. It could have happened right here, right now, and I still wouldn't have jumped. That movie is one of the very few movies, the original thing, that got me. That little wire in the blood. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was perfect. That was such a great scene, and everything following that was just amazing. Like you said, aliens on the ceiling. It was sick.
Yep. So we get teeth filling checks here, and basically, if you have a cavity, you're good, right? And she has Lars, the guy that doesn't speak any English. He's immediately on her side. She shows him teeth, and he understands. But like her buddy Adam, and he says, he goes, "I'm gonna get killed because I floss." Right.
Yeah, right.
So now we have we have two factions in this movie now. We have people with poor dental hygiene and people with excellent dental hygiene against each other. And let's see. At this point, Manster, I know I'm going to get everything kind of timing wrong here.
At this point, everything just sort of happens.
Right.
Yeah.
The Americans show back up again, freezing, but just Derek and Sam. They come back, and from this helicopter crash, they come back and they're like, we survived. They don't trust them, so they put them in a room by themselves. But meanwhile, after the test is done, all hell breaks loose because we find out that not Sandor, not the main doctor, but the other guy, the head of Halverson is a thing. And he starts to fucking come apart. And he gets one of the biggest thing transformations, and he also ties into the original movie heavily. You know, so in the original movie, you've got certain iterations of the thing that are very famous or popular. You've got the
dog thing,
and you've got the Wilford Brimley thing at the end, and you've got the chest,
the chest burster,
the ribs that bite
the rib
off,
cage thing,
and
spider head.
The spider head. In this one, I think the biggest one you get is this guy's arms turn into centipedes or something.
That's what. Oh, yeah. So yeah, he's walking. He's got his arms around him, and he's holding his arm for help, right?
Yeah,
yeah. And then he just releases himself, and his little centipede arms come off,
and they just start crawling around everywhere, and it's just
crawling and grabbing people's face.
Mass chaos. People are getting killed left and right. I will say, one of the best, I thought, effects in this scene, and again, I think it was mostly practical. It looked good at the very least. Was when Tormund Giantsbane or whatever is on the ground, and the thing is on his face.
Yeah.
And it's like in his eye at the same time, like one of the fingers is in his eye, and he's just looking at her like, and Kate flamethrowers him.
Flame on.
Yeah. So in this whole scene, in all this chaos, the Americans get back out again. Sam is helping her fight against the various things that are happening here. Derek, Mr. Echo, gets killed. It puts a tentacle through his heart. But then we get like one of the biggest, like you mentioned earlier, the axe and other things. But we got to talk about the two-faced man. So
yeah.
How does that happen?
So her buddy, what's her buddy's name? Adam.
Yeah.
He gets a I don't know. It's like a tentacle. One big tentacle is just like whipping around the room, and he gets it in the chest.
He does nothing to save himself. He just lays on the floor and screams while this thing comes at him.
He doesn't even try to back up or anything. No. But the other one, the not Halverson, right? Whichever one, I don't know. He that's pretty cool. He's on like backwards, kind of like bent over, kind of like Reagan in The Exorcist, right?
Yeah,
walking backwards with his head looking forwards, on all fours, and it's creepy as fuck. And he walks right over to Adam character and just like leans right into him, and just mashes his face, and you got your ultimate shunting going on right here.
Super shunt.
And you see, a couple, he puts his face over once or twice, and then like on the third time, like the skin just absorbs and just melds together.
Yeah.
And you got the Two-Face thing that you actually see in the original 82 movie.
Right. Burnt up in the snow. Right.
Yeah.
Which is the thing they bring back with them when they're right.
Yep.
They bring that back to look at it. So this scene, now that this creature has formed, we get a pretty long, like, kind of chase throughout the base with Kate and Sam, the Joel Edgerton character.
Yeah, this is where you get the arm things.
Yes.
And the axe in the door.
Yeah, he actually kills. So Sam kills or splits one of the arm things in half, and the axe ends up in the door. And then he goes to grab it, and she says, "Leave it."
She goes, "Leave it.
Leave it.
We're gonna need it for the next movie."
It's fan service, dickhead. I thought that was weird. Like, leave one of the only weapons we have.
I know. Why would you do that?
So Kurt Russell can see it, and we can make this movie, and like it's times an infinite loop.
Like, we already know it's there. Don't tell him to leave it.
Right.
That was just a stupid line.
I would have rather had it been like he tried to pull it out and couldn't. Right. And then she's like, "We gotta go," but like she's like, "Leave it," for no reason whatsoever. So eventually they end up getting that double-faced man thing outside, and they flamethrower it, right? That's how they kind of end it.
Yeah, I think they flamed that one.
Yeah. So this is where they end up leaving this off. So
there's just so many things going on. It's hard to remember all the different ones.
It's chaotic at this point. It's very chaotic at this point. So as they finish this off, all of a sudden they see the Sandor Halverson character, the doctor, take off in one of the snowcats, and they're like, "Well, we got to go follow him because we think he's a thing, and he's going back towards the spaceship, right?" So they follow him, and this is where he's already on the ship. Apparently, they crawl down through the tunnels and end up on the ship.
The slats start opening up.
Yeah, the vents start opening up, and she falls in to the ship, and then Joel Edgerton's character follows her down. And then this is kind of where the whole pilot versus Tetris ending takes precedent, I guess. So the original idea, and I guess this is what they filmed, but they filmed over it with the CGI. She was going to find the pilot of this ship. Now, a lot of people, I guess, think, or maybe rightfully think, because maybe it's canon, that the spaceship that crash lands on Earth is actually the Thing's spaceship, right? Is this creature spaceship.
Right.
The idea behind what they originally did was that she was going to find the pilot of this ship, and not through communication, I guess, but like maybe like through reading files or something. She was going to determine that essentially, so we had the US outpost, right? And then the Norwegian outpost.
Right.
The spaceship was like the first outpost where they had gone to a planet, picked up this creature on some kind of like zoological expedition, and then it was the Thing, and it ravaged that ship to the point.
All right, I get it.
To the point where the remaining sole pilot crash landed on Earth to kill it. Okay, but and I guess where that Tetris beam was the actual pilot, but they covered it with that effect, and they cut all the scenes out of her interacting with it. So she ends up in the ship, and it's warming up. The ship is like, is obviously getting ready to launch again. And she finds this giant totem pole of terrible CGI. It's just a bunch of like blue and yellow lights that look like Tetris
It's just
blocks.
like pixels spinning in a circle.
She eventually gets attacked by the Thing, which is in like this kind of like tentacle mode.
With the Halverson face.
And then the Halverson thing comes, and it's terrible. Those
so unnecessary that
God, it's like, think about the 82 thing and the end where the three of them go up against the Wilford Brimley version of the Thing, where it's like the dog head is in there.
Yeah.
And then you got, several faces, and it's really fucking awesome. This is the polar opposite of that. This looks like
it's literally like a pinned face on the front of it, right?
Yeah.
It looks like just a fake stretched out face skin, like Alpha would wear in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, it's garbage.
It's total garbage. Yeah,
it's total garbage.
Totally unnecessary.
Master, I'm trying to remember now. How does she defeat this thing? With a grenade or something?
Yeah, a grenade. Remember. She throws a grenade in the mouth, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what happened.
She grenades it, and then we find out that Carter is still alive.
And then finally, Carter comes around because when they were separated, he had to go a different route. So she hasn't seen him for a couple minutes.
So they kill the Thing. They get back out. He tells her there's a Russian outpost about 50 miles away. We're going to make it. Don't worry about it. They're getting ready to get in the Snowcat. He's in the Snowcat. He turns the wipers on. He's getting everything ready. And the flamethrower's in the front seat. And she looks at him, and she looks at him weird. And she's like, I'm going to throw this in the back. Throws it in the back. And then she says to him, do you know how when you came back from the crash, I knew you were you? And he's like, how? And she says, your earring. He had an earring on through the first part of the movie.
Right.
And the character reaches up to touch his ear, and she's like, wrong ear. And he's just kind of looking at her. And then she grabs the flamethrower, and he just starts like, okay, he's yelling at her. I will give this scene credit. The scene where she fucking flamethrowers him.
Yeah.
And it's shot from the back of the Snowcat, and you just see him in the driver's seat and engulfed in flames.
Mm-hmm.
Looks fucking great.
It's good. It's a good scene.
It's really good. So she burns him the fuck up, and then she just gets...
And just in case you had any question about it, you do hear like the Thing sort of moan inside of him. So.
Right. So she's kind of just left there. And our assumption is that she's going to die. Now, when this movie was first made... They initially had a sequel planned, but obviously it did not do well enough to merit that. And the sequel was going to be Kate, her next adventure in tracking down the Thing. So I think they're trying to say she's meant to have survived this somehow.
Yeah.
But Manster, take us into the end of this movie that is actually a great bridge to the 82 version.
So, yeah, it is a great bridge. So I guess it's the next morning, and the Tool helicopter... pilot, he's returning to the station, right, and then he sees the burned remains of the two-headed weird thing, And I guess this is when he goes through and he sees the corpse he sees the slit wrist and the cutthroat guy.
Yep.
With the razor in his hand and blood icicles. He goes out, right? And the dog escapes.
The dog escapes, and that's when Lars comes out.
And that's when Lars comes out. He's like, "That's no dog."
And he tells him, he's like, get in the helicopter, follow that fucking dog.
Yeah.
So, and he also has a box of grenades, which we see
right
in the 82 version.
But this is also where you start hearing the heartbeat, the Ennio Morricone, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And it's fantastic. It gave me chills just hearing that.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So we essentially just get to the point where the helicopter is chasing the dog through the snow, and it kind of is interspersed with the credits, like directed by and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends there. Like we don't even get to the American. Is that the last thing? Do we see the sign for it? Maybe?
No, I don't even think we see the sign.
Yeah, it just kind of ends. It just kind of ends in the chase.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's it.
All right. So that's the 2011 The Thing. Let's talk about the box office, or for their sake, maybe not talk about it.
Where's the money? When are you going to get the money? Why aren't you getting the money now? And so on. So please, the money.
All right. So let's see here. $38 million budget. Worldwide gross, 31.5. Ba, 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 ba. Not so good. October 10th through the 12th of 2011. Here are the top 5 films. Number 5, Dolphin Tale, which sounds like a kid's movie. I don't know what it is. It had been out for 4 weeks, made $6.2 million. Number 4, The Ides of March. I think it's Ryan Gosling and George Clooney, I believe. Political thriller.
No, yeah. Didn't see it.
Yeah, me neither. I think Forgotten Cinema did that last year. Out for 2 weeks, $7.2 million. Number 3, opened $8.5 million. The Thing, 2011. Uh-oh. Beaten by another, I guess, remake.
A re-release?
No, it's not a re-release. It says re-release. It's the 2011.
Oh, another
remake.
Version? Okay.
Yeah. Of Footloose. $15.6 million. So much like the original Thing's box office, people just didn't give a shit about this one too much. And then out for 2 weeks, it made $16.3 million, which was enough to put it in the number 1 position. Hugh Jackman and a bunch of CGI robots punching each other. Real steel.
Never even saw that or heard of it.
I saw it once. It was fine. Very passable, kind of family-friendly action boxing movie about robots.
Okay.
that old gem. That old
Chappie.
chestnut. Yeah. All right, Manster, let's rate this fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. It was fun.
All right, 0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the very best thing ever. Quarter and half scale are optional. I'll go first. 2011's The Thing. This is a movie that I've always enjoyed, but I feel like every time I watch it, it's diminishing returns. I watched this coincidentally like 2 months ago. About 2 months ago, the Milford Horror, I think it's called, did The Thing 82 in an ice rink in Milford. It was freezing in there. It was an incredibly cool experience. I went with Heather, Laura and Vinny were there. Bob was there. Very cool thing to go see. So the next day, Heather was like, I've never seen the prequel. We watched it. And I remember just being like, I think every time I watch this, I kind of like this a little bit less. I'm going to give this, I think on Letterboxd, I gave this a 3.5. I'm going to give it a 3.25. I think it's a fine movie on its own if you were to watch it and not know what The Thing was. But when you do know what 1982's The Thing is, and you know how the story beats parallel each other, I'm not even so mad at the stuff you would call fan service. I almost think of it more as just incredible attention to detail in this version. But it's just, the CGI really fucks this movie. If this movie was practical effects, I think it would give it a whole half a point more. Because there's some bad CGI in this. That Sandor Halvorsen thing at the end looks like a lump of shit. It's terrible. The little part in the helicopter Asides making no sense story-wise, really, like you mentioned, when his face cracks open, it just looks like shit.
Yeah.
There are a couple CGI things in this that work. I don't know how much of the ship was CGI and or a model, but that looked pretty good.
Yeah.
The thing inside the ice block where you kind of make out what it was, that looked pretty good. But for a movie that is a prequel to a beloved horror science fiction classic, I just feel like this doesn't even come close, which I know it can't be, right? The Thing is an incredible movie, but I just feel like every time I see this, I just kind of wish I was watching the 1982 The Thing. So I'm still going to give it a 3.25 because I think it's a decently acted film. I think there's some cool little bits in it, but it's not scary. The effects aren't great. I think 3.25. And boy, something about The Thing movies where even now I'm doubting that. Like, is it a 3? Is it a 3.25? I'm going to split the difference on my letterbox and say 3.25, but yeah, it's watchable, but it's not great. I've always defended this movie, and I think I'm getting to the point where I don't feel like I have to do that anymore. It's definitely not a bad watch, but nothing special. Master, what do you got?
Yeah. So, you know that The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I did a lot of research on that movie a long time ago. I did a lot of research on this movie. And I think I'm going to go back to the title card again, because the title card of this movie was just a digital creation, right? And the font even was blocky. It was less organic than the original. And the original, like I said before, it was very creative the way they filmed that, and the way the thing appears, and it's really just reminiscent of just the whole movie is like that. It's just like a nice looking thing on its own, but not what it could be. Yeah, and I hate to just compare this. I'm going to kind of like I did with Red Dragon and Manhunter.
Right.
I hate to compare it, but you just have to, because what came before was a 5-star movie. 5 out of 5, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I have to, even though I gave it a 4
right.
years ago. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So that said, I think this movie is a pretty decent film and a good prequel. I really admire the dedication the team put, with recreating everything, matching up to the original, but it comes up short in comparison. And I think it just kind of falls like what you're finding out. It just falls into the realm of, it's a pretty good creature film, but nothing that's super memorable, right?
Right.
The writing is definitely not as good. And I know that it can't. It just by default, there's no way it can achieve the level of suspense and like paranoia that the 82 film had.
Not even close.
It just can't, because you know what's happening next.
You also feel like, maybe it's just me, or maybe it's because, I don't know, I don't know what it is, but like, I feel like the characters in this are all so generic comparatively to the characters in The Thing. Even though you don't like get to know them all that well, you feel like, Childs and Windows and all these people, you feel like, they've all got their little things and you know enough about them and you kind of can read into them. And these guys, maybe it's because like they're all Norwegian actors and I don't know who the fuck is Christu and I don't know which one's Olag.
I don't remember a single name.
Right.
And, they certainly ramped up the action, right? And the number of attacks and all that stuff. But none of it's memorable enough. Like I'm not going to remember that, the guy was holding another guy's arm and then it turned into the breakaway thing. That's just, so what? The conjoining tendrils, they did that a lot in this. They did those little tendrils that join up.
Yeah.
It just doesn't really inspire awe. Like every time I looked at the original Thing, it's just awe-inspiring, but this one isn't. And like I said earlier, I don't think the Thing itself, it doesn't act as intelligently as it did before. Maybe that's just because it's new. Maybe it's learning. Maybe I shouldn't be so hard on it, but it's just not as impressive in every aspect of every part of the movie. And the last thing, the showdown between Kate and the thing with the Halverson's face, just so dumb.
Yeah.
That column of spinning pixels, I don't know. I didn't get it. Anyway, I know I'm picking on the movie, but I don't dislike this movie. I think it's a pretty good sequel. Yeah, I'll give it a 3 out of 5.
That's fair.
Yeah,
I think I'm doing what I've done for years with this, and I'm bolstering it a little bit by giving it that 3.25. But there are things I like about it. I do like Mary Elizabeth Winstead in this. She's good. I always like Joel Edgerton, even though he's given nothing to do. His character is the parallel to Kurt Russell, and he is in no fucking way, shape, or form Kurt Russell.
Yeah, his best thing he did was like wink. Like,
yeah. All right, that's fair. 2011's The Thing kicks off Frigid February. That's right, it's cold as fuck. So we're going to be talking about movies that are cold as fuck. As a matter of fact, we'll tell you all of the films we'll be putting out this month for you guys. I know one of them is very exciting to the Manster.
I have to build up to that one.
Yeah, that'll be the last one we do. That'll make it easy for you. So in no particular order other than the last one, we'll be doing Cliffhanger, the 1993 Sylvester Stallone action classic, I guess. We'll be doing The Gray, a movie by a guy I mentioned earlier, Joe Carnahan, the director of Smoking Aces. Liam Neeson fighting a fucking wolf.
Yeah,
with nip bottles. You if you've never seen it, check it out.
Nippers on the fingers.
Nippers on the fingers. We'll be talking about that. We're going to finish it off at the end of this month in February, talking about one of Lloyd's favorite movies featuring a character named Lloyd. That's right.
Another Lloyd.
We're going way back in the snow. We're going way back to the Overlook. That's right. We're going to talk about 1980s The Shining. So that's going to be very exciting. Lloyd got what you said. You got like a brand new book or something for Christmas that you're going to dig into.
Yeah, it's a double making of the Shining book.
Awesome. So we'll do that for the last. So you're going to do production on that one, buddy. I'll do the cast.
Yeah, I'll do that.
That way you got all your little. Yeah, you could look through that book and you could say factoid after factoid. You could dazzle the audience with factoids. Manster, tell them where they could find us.
How about on Patreon? You can become a Pint Insider at www.patreon.com/the Pint. You could be what are the tiers? The names?
Oh fuck, I don't even remember.
I don't remember either.
One of them is just the Pint Insider. That's $2.50. Oh, the other one is I like to watch because we that's when we do live streams on.
Yeah, and on Instagram it's at the Pint Pop.
That's right. You got it.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it.
And of course, we put out episodes weekly on all your podcatchers. So whichever one you like, just go ahead and find that one. And you know what? If it allows you to, I know we say this a lot, but no one does it. But you know what? Give us a rating. Send us up the charts a little bit.
Get us up there.
That'd be great. Get more people listening.
Stop fucking, what do they call that?
Stop hoarding us. Share us.
What do they call that? Gatekeeping. Stop
gatekeeping.
Stop I can't. Holy fuck.
You're like me.
Stop gatekeeping the Pint. Let other people discover us. Let them find out how effervescent we are.
Yeah.
Give us a 5-star review. Yeah, give us a 5-star review. All right, one last thing before we go. Special offer for Pint listeners. So my old elementary through high school chum, Christy, has a coffee company called Harpoon Holly, HOLLY, Harpoon Holly. www.harpoonholly.com. You can find her on Instagram at harpoon_holly. All different coffees and teas. Here's a couple of the varieties. There's one called Racing Silk, which is an Italian roast. Cool Down Blend, it's a cold brew. African Espresso, Frenchies, French Vanilla. And then they're all small batch handcrafted coffees. Some of the teas, I'm a tea drinker. I picked up apple cider rubios, I don't know how to say that word, ribos. And I picked up the Peach Paradise. I love flavored teas. These are both really, really, really good. I'm not just saying that because I know her, and I'm not just saying that because I want to help sell her stuff, but they're very good. It's super cold out there. It's frigid, as we said. So pretty please with sugar on top. Go to her website and take a look at her products. She also does mugs and bags and t-shirts and gift cards and subscriptions. So if you want to, if you like a coffee, you can get it sent to your house every 2 days, every 5 minutes. I don't know. You have to go on the website to find that out. But on single orders right now, single orders, not subscriptions, when you go through everything and you put in the coupon code PINT20, PINT 20, you'll get 20% off of that order. So that's well worth it.
I'm gonna get me some tea.
Get some tea, Manster. I'm telling you right now, apple cider Rooibos and the Peach Paradise are both very good, but there's also English breakfast. There's several things. So once again, www.harpoonholly.com, at harpoon_holly on Instagram. Every episode this month for Frigid February, we're going to be hyping her up and trying to get some business sent her way. And don't forget, if you're doing an individual order, discount code PINT20. Manster, say the words.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!